Yeah, what's happening, people? Okay, so I want to do a review today, another oldie, another golden oldie. This is Alicia Keys' Diary of Alicia Keys, and it is her second studio album. So I wanted to talk about this one rather than her first one, which is Keys in A minor. And the reason I want to talk about this one is that when Keys in A minor came out, you know, I heard some of the. I don't think I listened to the whole album, but I did listen to some of the singles as they were coming out, and you know they were okay. You know, I'm not knocking it. You know, I like them. But when this album was coming out and the singles started coming out on this particular album, that for me was like put Alicia Keys just up there, like the quality on the songs, just everything about them. I don't think I listened to the whole album at the time it came out, but listened to it sometime later. But I remember the songs as they were coming out as singles and seeing the videos on TV and that kind of thing, and I was like, yeah, this really like hit home for me. That Alicia Keys is, yeah, you know what, need to pay attention to this chick. But yeah, so let's talk about this album. It's called Diary of Alicia Keys. So what is a Diary of Alicia Keys? Some thinking, you know, diaries are usually, you know, confessional. You know, people who keep diaries tend to confess their day to the diary, you know, and they put their deepest, darkest secrets in there. Well, maybe not always darkest, it's not always that deep, but they, you know, they put their secrets in there, things that you just don't tell anybody, as a way of, you know, getting things off your chest, as a way of maybe some kind of therapy, like a cathartic exercise, or just like jotting down your day, or journaling your day. And depending on what you're writing about, you know, it could be something that you really need to do to help you get through your next day, or it could be just something that you do for fun, you know. Why not, right? But this is the Diary of Alicia Keys as an album in musical form. So what is Alicia Keys trying to tell us? What is Alicia Keys' secrets is? What is Alicia Keys' trying to confess to the world through her diary? And I feel like a lot of the songs in this particular piece, you know, generally, I would say love as a very general over theme of everything, but just in different ways. So there's, you know, songs about people that she likes that, you know, you don't know my name. I don't necessarily know who, even though she is. There's songs about people who she likes, but, you know, realizes not always working out. So it's definitely a theme of like sort of love and relationships and that kind of thing throughout. But let me talk about these songs individually, and yeah, let's see what we got here. So the first song is called Harlem's Nocturne. And it's just an introduction to the album, really. You know, she talks about, you know, taking this journey with her. So it's really just, I guess it's just literally just that. It's just her introducing what we're about to listen to. That's all you can say about that. It's a really short piece. We then get Karma. Now, Karma's a beep, as they say, but in this particular song, this is about a breakup. You know, somebody broke up with her and now wants her back. And it doesn't say it specifically in a song, but I'm guessing it's something to do with now that she's, you know, maybe a bit more famous, or, you know, she's got a bit more money, you know, all that kind of stuff, little fame, little name. This person wants her back. He didn't appreciate her before when she was just Alicia Cook, but now she's Alicia Keys. You know, he's like, oh yeah, what you saying, baby? What you saying, baby? You know, that kind of thing. So that's the impression I got anyway. Like, it's someone that didn't really treat her that well during the relationship while she was trying to make it work and, you know, staying up and, you know, caring about him and all that kind of stuff. But then he was giving all like these bogus answers. It's like this old saying that goes, never cross oceans for people who, no, I'm messing this up. Never cross oceans for people who wouldn't cross puddles for you. So I feel like this is a song about a time where Alicia was crossing the oceans for this person, but this person wouldn't even cross a puddle for her. And then eventually he was like, nah, I'm done with you, Alicia. And then later on, perhaps when she's like, you know, famous and money and this and that, and he's like, hey, what you saying, baby girl? What you saying? But she's like, nah, what goes around comes around, because karma's a all right, so the next one is called Heartburn. So yeah, if you got heartburn, you might want to, you know, get that checked out or something. It's not good to have heartburn, but apparently in this case, it's a person that's given Alicia Keys heartburn. So it's about the way she feels about this gentleman. And there's an interesting line in the song where she says, you know, the doctor says count to 5 and you'll be all right. And then the next bit is her count. She says 1, 2, 3, 4, and stops on 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I feel like that's quite interesting that she doesn't actually count to 5, because perhaps it's symbolizing that her feelings for this person is preventing her from counting all the way to 5, or that maybe she doesn't necessarily want to get over her feelings for this person, and that therefore just stops at 4. But yeah, if you have feelings about somebody that are giving you heartburn, maybe drink some water. That might help. Or I don't know, go for a run or something. Actually, probably don't go for a run. That might make it worse. You know, having a heartburn and running at the same time. That's probably not a good combination. Next song is called If I Was Your Woman / Walk On By. And this is Alicia Keys describing how a relationship would be if she was this person's woman, the things that she'll do and that kind of thing. But the interesting twist here is that the person is actually with somebody else, and the person doesn't value him. You know, there's a line where she says, you're a diamond, but she treats you like glass. You know, so he's with somebody that doesn't really value him, and it doesn't really go into why they're still together or why he doesn't walk away from that relationship. I'm sure they have their reasons for that, but apparently he's with this woman that doesn't fancy him, while she has all these feelings for him and has this idea of what their relationship would be like if they were together, but he's with someone else. And another twist to it is that she also lacks the courage to say something. There's a line where she says she's too afraid to say something to him. So there's a few things going on here. She fancies this person, but he's with someone, the person doesn't value him, and she doesn't have the courage to say something. So yeah, it's interesting set of circumstances going on in that particular song. And then You Don't Know My Name. It's a really cool song, but it's actually a little bit creepy when I was thinking about it though, and it didn't really occur to me until like, you know, started preparing this video that this song's actually a little bit creepy. And I guess that's just how we view things in society. Like, imagine the roles were reversed, where it was a guy talking about a woman that he likes that comes into the place of work every, you know, Wednesday or whatever it was, and then, you know, he knows her name, he's got her phone number, you know, he knows like what type of drink she's having and all that kind of stuff. I feel like if the roles were reversed, people might have a different outlook on this, but I guess it's that's how people didn't clock back then. But yeah, it's a song about this guy that comes into her place of work every Wednesday, and you know, she really likes him, and she apparently finds out his name and his phone number at some point, and then just decides to go and call him and ask him out. But she's talking about, you know, my manager be tripping to telling us to put water, but I always use milk and chocolate because I think you're sweet. You know, and I would say that it's kind of perhaps a sequel to the previous song, you know, If I Was Your Woman / Walk On By. Walk on by. It was kind of a sequel to that, because whereas in that song she was saying she didn't have the courage to ask the person out, in this song, well, she does. And I don't think it's necessarily the same person she's talking about, but I do feel it's kind of say like a spiritual sequel, where in one side she was too afraid to say something, but the next bit is like, you know, different situation or slight different situation, potentially, you know, who knows what he's going through in this video. Now she does have the courage to say something, and you know, even though it's not something that girls usually do, she's like, let me go ahead and call this boy. And actually something interesting I found out, at least interesting to me anyway, I don't know if anybody else will find this interesting, but I found this out as I was reading on Genius.com. Shout out to Genius.com once again. But this song was actually co-written by Kanye West. There's a bunch of writers on it, like 3 or 4 writers on it, maybe even more than that actually. But Kanye West, yeah, was one of the writers on this song. I don't know which parts of the song he wrote, but yeah, Kanye West was a co-writer on the song You Don't Know My Name. Next song is called If I Ain't Got You. And this song is about just the idea that you could have all these things, you could have money, you could have fame, you could have everything in the world, but if you don't have this person, this special person to you, the person that you love, none of that really means anything. And I read that this song was actually inspired by a few different events. One was the death of Aaliyah, and one was the 9/11 attacks. And I think what Alicia's really trying to say in this, when I read that, I think what she's trying to say in this is just the idea of cherishing what is really important to you, because you don't know when it's going to go. Like, you know, you don't know when, you know, people you love would just no longer be here. Like, it could happen just so suddenly. It could be natural causes, it could be an accident, it could be, you know, all kinds of things in between. I think one of the messages she's trying to give, and it doesn't necessarily say it specifically in the song, but I think one of the messages she's trying to send is that you got to tell people that you care about them when you have the chance to tell them that you care about them, because they might not be here tomorrow. You might not be here tomorrow, right? So it's I think like when you go through these kind of experiences, like Aaliyah died in an airplane crash, which is horrific, and then the 9/11 attacks, of course, involved airplanes as well. It's just like all of a sudden, like what, 2,000, 3,000 lives just gone, and that's 3,000 people that you're never going to get to say, you know, you care about them anymore. You're never going to say that, you know, you appreciate what they do for you. That's, you know, all the things that you wanted to say to these people, all gone. And it's not always going to be some sudden horrific event. You know, sometimes it is going to be just natural causes as people age and pass on. But still, it's that feeling of realizing that our lives could be gone just at any moment, and valuing the things that are really important to you and the people that are really important to you, and understanding that, yeah, you can have this, that, and the other, and all this stuff, but unless you really appreciate the people in your life and the people, and let them know that you appreciate them, then what does all that mean? So yeah, that's that one hits. Next song is called Diary, which I guess is kind of the title of the album, kind of. Whose diary is this particular one about? I don't even know why I did that. All right, so this one's called Diary, and it's really just about Alicia talking about her being the diary, her being the person that this other person can confide in. You know, she's talking about lay your head on the pillow, and, you know, you could tell me your secrets, you know, I'll keep your secrets. So you could tell her anything, you know, like a diary. And I guess it's her just letting this person know that she is that person that, you know, he can confide in, that he can trust, that he could bare his soul to. And I think that it's important to have people like that in your relationship. You know, if I can get a little bit religious for a second, you know, in the Quran, it mentions that your wife is the bearer of your secrets and you are the bearer of her secrets. And so I feel like that is like, in a relationship, you need to be able to trust people, tell them the things that you don't necessarily tell everybody else, and they should be able to tell you the things that they don't necessarily tell everybody else, you know, the good things, the bad things, and all in between. And you should be able to trust that, you know, she's not going to go post it on Instagram or whatever, you know. So yeah, I think having that trust in a relationship is important, and just letting this person know that he can trust her. So next song is called Dragon Days, and this is kind of just a play on words a little bit. I think, you know, Dragon Days, the days drag on. So really like just saying the days are long, you know, they feel like they're just dragging, just long, boring, because she is missing her man. And, you know, she talks about needing this guy like the desert needs water, which, by the way, is technically inaccurate. Deserts don't technically need water. In fact, the term desert really just means barren. So well, I get what she's trying to say, okay? I'm just being a bit nitpicky here. But yeah, it's a song about needing somebody, or feeling like you need this person in your life, and when they're not around, you know, the days just don't, you know, like I say, time flies when you're having fun, right? And she's having fun with this person when he's around, but when he's not around, the days just drag. It's just boring. All she could do is think about this person and the time that they have, and just how much she misses him and that kind of thing. So she got it bad, is what she's saying. So next one's called Wake Up, and this is like a relationship gone bad, and she's talking about can't tell anymore if we're enemies or lovers, and, you know, there's something that went wrong in this relationship, right? And she's talking about, like, letting her ego and pride and things like that get in the way. When are they going to wake up and, you know, fix this problem before it's, you know, too late to fix anything? But there's an interesting line here where she says, can't get it right when no one thinks they're wrong. And just going on the whole thing about ego and pride and that kind of thing. Sometimes we do this, right? Sometimes we let our ego come forward and take over everything, and, you know, rather than just admitting that we're wrong, or admitting that we don't know something, or admitting that things could have been better, this, that, and the other, we let our ego take over and our pride take over, and it's like, no. And if they're both like that, it's just contention. It's like competing for the win, you know, I'm right, no, I'm right, no, I'm right, no, I'm right, and just constantly competing. In a relationship, it shouldn't be. In fact, let me quote somebody. It was Jay Shetty, something I heard him say on a Red Table Talk, where he said that in a relationship, it's not me versus you, it's you and me versus a problem. But as Alicia's saying, if none of us are willing to admit that one of us is wrong, then we can't get to that me and you versus a problem. It's just me versus you, and that's the problem. All right, so the next song is called So Simple, and I feel like this is somewhat of a sequel, or maybe somewhat of an extension of sorts to Wake Up, because it's still talking about a relationship that's gone bad. But you mentioned, though, could it be so simple, you know, to go back to how it was? So I feel like leading off of Wake Up, where, you know, they're talking about having the problems and the ego and things like that, this song's just asking the question, you know, could it be so simple to just go back to how it was? And, well, I guess only they can answer that. But I feel like this is just like leading off of that into this song, just trying to reconcile. Maybe she's had time to kind of think about things after the events of Wake Up, and now it's just like maybe on her own and kind of recollecting and thinking over things, and just asking, like, could it just be that simple? Could we just let it go and just go back to how it was before? And, well, Could it be? The next song is called When You Really Love Someone, and this song really just about, you know, being in a relationship or what it takes to be in a relationship, and that, you know, it's two people support each other. She talks about a man is not a man if he's not man enough to love you when you're right, love you when you're wrong, love you when you're weak, love you when you're strong. And then on the next verse, it's a woman's not a woman if she's not woman enough to love you when you're right, love you when you're wrong, love you when you're weak, love you when you're strong. So it's not just what he does for you and then, you know, you don't gotta do nothing. You know, it's both ways. You both gotta be able to support each other when, you know, you're right, wrong, weak, strong, good, bad, and everything in between. Because relationships aren't always easy, right? They're not always, you're not always going to, as you mentioned in the song as well, it's not always going to be easy. Sometimes you are going to get into arguments and things like that. But if you're just going to like throw in a towel, the moment the moment something goes wrong, you'll probably find that your relationships won't last very long, right? Because things can go wrong pretty quickly sometimes. And of course, I would say that in my own sort of add into that, and not so much what Alicia mentioned in the song, I feel like there does have to be a limit in terms of what you'd accept from another person, right? I mean, if the person's smacking you around, and you know, you probably should walk away from something like that. If you're being beaten up, you know, smacked about, abused, then yeah, maybe that's the one to love from a distance, so to speak. In other cases, just when general things go wrong, then yeah, I do feel like, look, as long as you know that you're working towards something together, you know, that's why one of the things I feel like it's important in a relationship is to have values established in the beginning, have the same kind of like outlook on life, and not necessarily you have to like all the same things, but I do think it's important that if you're with someone that you have similar values and similar sort of outlooks on life. That way, when things do go wrong, and things would go wrong, you know that you're working towards the same sort of goals. You have the same kind of ideas in mind of, you know, how to get past it. Maybe you don't necessarily agree in that moment, but overall, you're heading towards the same place. If you're just going to throw in a towel just because, you know, they like blue and you like red, you know, it's never going to work with anybody. You need to be able to love someone through their good times, through their bad times. You know, when they're coming home from work and they're having a crappy day and they're just not really feeling good or happy about themselves, you need to be able to support them through that, and everything that comes with being with somebody, and, you know, wanting to see that person at their best so they can see you at your best, you know. And it's there's a lot in there. I feel like this song tries to hit on that it is work to be in a relationship with somebody, but it gotta be worth it. Gotta make sure they're worth it. So Bob Marley, actually, I heard this was a Bob Marley quote where he said that everyone's gonna hurt you. It's just about finding the ones who are worth the pain. So yeah, that's the thing. You find somebody that's worth the pain, then you gotta love them when they're right, love them when they're wrong, love them when they're weak, love them when they're strong. Next song is Feeling You, Feeling Me, and this song really is just her describing her feelings about somebody and her thoughts about somebody, where she's saying, are you feeling me, feeling you? I think it's just that idea of just when you're with somebody that you really care for, you really have feelings for, and just being lost in their presence, or in this case conversation. And, you know, part of her brain is like wondering, are you feeling me, feeling you? Because she's feeling like her feelings are so strong. She's wondering if he's feeling her feelings, and who knows what he's feeling, right? That doesn't really say. But yeah, that's really just going through her expressing that feeling, those emotions that she's going through. So the next song is called Slow Down, and this song is Alicia Keys talking about being attracted to somebody but not necessarily wanting to just rush into it. Now that I'm thinking about it as well, I do feel like this is perhaps an extension to Feeling You, Feeling Me, where she's talking about being lost in conversations and wondering if he's feeling her, feeling him, whether he's feeling her, feeling him. In this song, she's talking about having feelings for this guy and being attracted to this guy, but it's like, look, I can't rush into it, so I need to be sure that I'm sure. It's just recognizing now that she's kind of had these feelings for this guy, and maybe perhaps had time to kind of think about them, is kind of realizing that, yeah, she is feeling these things, but it's not a good idea to just rush into it. You know, let's get to know each other. Let's you know, talk about what it is that we're about. And perhaps it's kind of leading off into a whole thing about in the previous songs about, you know, when you really love someone and being in a relationship with someone. So if you're going to do all that in a relationship, you do want to be reasonably sure about certain things. I think you recognize that it's never going to be perfect and you can't predict everything that's going to happen, but you generally want to ask some questions just to make sure you're not like going into something with somebody that is just absolutely no chance of working, and you're just going to end up causing a whole bunch of heartbreak and misery and something just because you're feeling somebody doesn't necessarily mean that's the right person for you. So, and I feel like that's perhaps what she's trying to say here is like, okay, I'm feeling these things, but let's not rush into it. Let's get to know each other. Let me be sure that I'm sure that, we want to go through this, because if I'm going to love you when you're right, love you when you're wrong, love you when you're weak, love you when you're strong, let's be sure that we are sure about each other so we can do that. Yeah, kind of a connection between those a little bit, I reckon. So the next song is called Samsonite Man. Now, for those who might not know, Samsonite are a manufacturer of luggages. They make like bags, luggages. I'm sure they do other things as well, but I believe that's their main source of income, their luggages. So if you're a Samsonite man, then you're probably somebody who packs luggages a lot, somebody who travels a lot, really. But however, in this case, I feel like it's a metaphor for somebody who's just always on the move. So she refers to this person who's kind of a sweet talker, he's a charmer, and he kind of says the right things, that sort of things, and he gets her to smile, all that sort of stuff. But just when she's think everything's okay, just when she's feeling it's cool, things are good, maybe just about to let her guard down, dude's gone. He's always on the move. He's always, going somewhere. He's never really there for her. He's there when he wants something, but not when she needs him. When she's like feeling vulnerable, perhaps, like he's gone, nowhere to be found. So that's the metaphor I think she's going for in this. That's, you take somebody who's like, say, always traveling a lot, and maybe they pack Samsonite suitcases, or any of the many manufactured suitcases you might be packing, but in this case Samsonite. So she's taking that as a metaphor for somebody who travels a lot, but applying it to this person who's always on the move. Just as things are about to get serious, maybe just as she thinks things are getting serious, dude's gone. And perhaps, this is a sequel, now I'm thinking about it again, to Slow Down. Maybe this is something that's happened in the past, so now with Slow Down, she's like, you know what, let me check a few things before we go into this, because you don't want to be dealing with a Samsonite man again. And then the last song on the album is called Nobody Not Really, and this is an interesting song because he's talking about the feeling like nobody cares, nobody really cares about her, nobody really listens to her, nobody really wants to understand her. She mentions that, her mother could help, but she's too tired. Her father can't help because he's not there. So she has this feeling of nobody really cares. And I find that really interesting, because for somebody like Alicia Keys, I guess we don't really consider these things, and I'm guilty of this as much as anybody, that when somebody is, famous and they've practically got all these eyes on them, we don't necessarily consider that just because everybody's looking at them doesn't necessarily mean they are being seen. And there's a song that came out recently by Justin Bieber called Lonely. I just did the reaction for it on the channel, and I think that covers a similar sort of thing, that you've had all this money, you have all this fame, but when there's no one around that you feel like is really trying to get to know you, or really trying to understand you, and everyone's just kind of pointing their fingers and criticizing, you just feel lonely. And perhaps it's a similar sort of thing where she's feeling like, okay, yeah, she's got some fame, she's got some money, she's got this, she's got that, but when she's looking around, and maybe it just seems like this guy just wants this from her, that person just wants that from her, this person wants that. So it's like everybody's looking, but nobody's really seeing her. And from that, she has this feeling of like, does anybody really care? Does anybody really want to understand, me? Am I just here and not really here, So that's an interesting one. I think a lot of us have gone through something similar, not necessarily so much with the money and the fame, unfortunately, but just in terms of feeling like nobody really cares about you. I feel like a lot of us go through that in various stages of our life, at various points, and for various reasons, that, when we look around at the people that, yeah, we got friends, we got family, but you still kind of feel lonely. You still kind of feel like nobody's really paying attention. And you wonder, like, would anybody even notice if I wasn't here? I think the message, or at least hopefully the message, is that, people do care. People do care, and the way people show they care is different to how you might think they show they care, if that makes sense. Probably doesn't, but what I'm trying to say is, it's not always going to be obvious when people care about you, but they care about you. People care about you in different ways. It's just not always, how you might think it would go. It's not always how you might imagine it be in your mind. It's not always going to be the most obvious thing, but it's there. Somebody cares about your ass, and perhaps that's kind of the irony of this whole thing, is that people care about people, but it's not always clear. And sometimes people really start to feel like nobody cares about them, and then that manifests itself in other ways. People do care about you. It's not always obvious that they care about you. And perhaps going back over the album, maybe should be more obvious that we care about other people. As Alicia talks about in If I Ain't Got You, maybe should be more clear and obvious that we care about people, because we might not be here tomorrow for a lot of different reasons. So yeah, that's that. So those are all the songs on the Diary of Alicia Keys. Alicia Keys letting us into her confessional world of what she's trying to tell us. And yeah, it's a solid album overall. It hits a lot of different points, and a lot of those are really like, you really got to think about what it means to you, and how do you implement that into your own life, especially when it comes to how we handle situations, whether it's going into a relationship, whether it's letting people know we care about them, ego, pride, all these things that play a part of our day-to-day, and how we sometimes need to, just check ourselves, but also make sure we're not being played. That's that balance to be had, right? You want to go in full, you want to bring your full self into a relationship with somebody, and you want to be able to give your all to that person. But if that person isn't giving their all to you, that's a problem. So it's like making sure you don't get hurt, but also at the same time, not being afraid to say something, because if you're too afraid to say something, it's never going to happen. And I think, especially when we talk about, you hear this a lot, like, those guys ain't shit, those guys ain't, you hear that sort of stuff a lot. And guys do this too, by the way. Let's not put it all on the ladies here. Guys do this sort of thing too. When you have that kind of idea about people, it almost becomes a self-proclaimed prophecy. When you think everybody's going to screw you over, you're constantly going to be looking for that one mistake that they make and think, yep, that's it. See, that's it. See, that's it. I knew it. You have to allow yourself to get hurt. I think that's part of it. You have to be willing to get hurt. Not that you want to get hurt. Let's be clear on that. Nobody wants to get hurt. But I think you have to be willing to get hurt, because if you're not, then you're always going to be guarding yourself. And if you're always guarding yourself, then you're never really fully in that relationship. And you're just always looking for that thing that goes wrong to just say, yep, see, I was right. And that's your ego coming into play. And the other side of that is, if somebody is opening up to you, then you need to be receptive to that. It's not enough to just say, oh yeah, you need to open up. If someone's opening up to you, and it's difficult for people to open up sometimes, it's really, really difficult, depending on what type of things they've been through in their life. If they have been hurt in the past, that sort of stuff, and their upbringing and everything else, it can be extremely difficult for some people to open up. So if somebody is opening up to you in any kind of capacity, you got to be receptive to that. Because if you're not, then it just makes them even more guarded, and even more skeptical, and even more unwilling to trust people. So it goes both ways. You gotta be willing to open up, which means that you gotta be willing to be vulnerable, which means you gotta be willing to risk getting hurt. But if somebody's doing that, they need to be receptive to that and make sure that you are not hurting them. Otherwise, it's just misery. But anyway, that's that's my take on the Diary of Alicia Keys. Let me know what you think of the album. If you got the same sort of messaging from it, or if you think something else, let me know. Banger, wanger, definitely a banger for me. Old school album, but banger nonetheless. Let me know what you think. Is it a banger for you? Is it a wanger for you? Let me know. But yeah, recommendations, suggestions. I do want to try and get through some more older albums. But that's gonna be it for the minute. So guys, until whenever, if ever, peace.